anticipating, okay, how can I get to my next grip, right? So in this case, like, it could be a situation where he grabs my wrist, he strips, and from here, I could use an indirect grip, which is him controlling me to work, right? There are a lot of things we can do from here, but I generally find that a lot of times he has a decision to make. He either wants to keep the grip or he can maintain good positioning. If he keeps his elbow super tight, and I try to bring his elbow away, he either chooses to let go or he follows me, right? You let go, okay, fine, and we continue gripping. But oftentimes what's going to happen is because there's this little bit of control that they have on me, so keep the wrist grip, right? Keep the wrist grip. Once I bring his elbow away from his body, I find that this is very easy for me to then use a thumb post to get my own grip, right? And from here, in this case, I have an upwards facing wrist grip, and we have a lot of options we can do to follow up. Depending on my partner's stance and their kind of reaction and how tight their elbow is, we have a lot of good things we can do from here. So initially, especially when I first get this, I get this wrist. If I feel like he's trying to retract his elbow, what I'm going to do is I'm almost going to punch this wrist into his hip, just as a means to get him moving backwards, right? And at the same time, you can take a look at my posture right now where, once again, my left heel is to my butt, my right leg's extended. And in this case, even against a staggered opponent, I'm going to be able to reach for my partner's far leg as I use an ankle pick at the same time. Wojcinski's actually done this a fair bit in the gi, but I like it as like a complement to like normal dummy sweeps, where normally it's going to be a lot easier to hit these dummy sweeps when he's square. But when we find that our partner is staggered, we can actually stagger ourselves and have a long leg and a short leg. And instead of using both legs, I really like having one heel to my butt, so that when I do manage to put my partner down, it makes it very easy for me to heist up, instead of necessarily always having to retract my heel afterwards. So from here, we get this to him, he strips, he retracts, I'm going to push this to the hip, and then I'm going to try up and forward. So from here, there's going to be two types of situations from here. Like, again, it's blocking one foot with my instep, blocking one foot with my hand, I'm pushing at his hip. If I just push into empty space, nothing's going to happen. He's probably going to drive his knee forward. This is probably going to be bad for me. So make sure that you're actually moving him backwards. It can be at his like stomach, hip type area. We want to make sure we have a purchase though. And from here, if we catch them off guard, we can get him straight to his butt, right? And especially when his weight's on his heels, we can actually get like quite a big sweeping motion. But often if his weight is more ready to move or it's more on his toes, I find that my partner tends to step out a lot more. And this is what's going to then lead very well into like actually more like what looks like a sling up. Right? And from here we have a lot of good options to build up. Once again, I really like this posture because the moment I stumble my partner and they step out, it makes it very easy for me to then transition to the single leg. And obviously from here we have a lot of options to build up and so on. Broadly speaking, depending on how my partner reacts, if they have weight or no weight on this leg, it'll determine what I'm going to do. If they're making me carry weight, I think running the pipe is very easy, because then there's weight on my hands, I'm going to have a good ability to actually bring this into the mat. Versus if he's taking weight off of this leg, right, no amount of running the pipe, in my opinion, is actually going to be too productive for me. There are a lot of good alternatives we have, whether it's bringing his foot up, whether it's possibly going to a body lock, using variations of cutbacks, and so these are all good things you can do against an unweighted leg. That's just broad, I don't want to go into the detail there. I actually want to show something I've been working on recently, which is off of this reaction, he strips the wrist, I pull these steps. I get here, I'm going to drive, especially when I feel like there's weight here, he's pulling this leg back a little bit. I'm actually going to drive my left knee to the inside of his shin, and then I'm going to go elbow deep, and I basically want to free up both hands. As much as I can, I want my hip to carry his shin, and from here, this is a fairly robust single leg for us to then work from. What's very likely to happen from here is that my partner is going to try free his leg. He's going to try limp leg, and the way he's going to do that, he's going to post on me somehow. So it could be on my head, it could be on my shoulder, etc. Right? So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to then get a grip on my partner. So when I feel this reaction, right, I have a good grip. This is tight, I'm elbow deep. And then immediately before he can actually like, if I just stay here, eventually he'll get his leg out, right? But I'm going to be quite ready for this, where I'm going to look for my partner's hand as soon as I can, and then from here I'm going to use this as an opportunity to actually hand fight from the single leg. Depending on if I get the forearm or the near arm, it can vary the type of reaction and outcome we get, but it's almost always going to be good for us when we have these grips. You can have control with this far wrist. I like these tone ones. You can even switch it off to the far side. Now when he tries to make it difficult for me to actually reach his far leg, if he makes it really hard, I feel like I can kind of knock him forward. If he keeps it close, knocking forward is hard, but it makes it easier for us to then access the far leg. Same thing if he uses this near side arm on our head, I'm going to go hand behind the head, strip this, and I'm going to try and knock my partner's weight forward. We can use anything basically in the back of our partner's tricep, whether it be our head, or if he's just committing a lot of weight, like even if he gets my head super low, sometimes this type of motion can almost knock him forward a little bit, and then from here we get to the hip. But even if that's not the case, once again, we can pass a hand across, and depending on whether or not this leg is far or close, if it's far, I feel like knocking him forward becomes easier. We can get to doubles and so on, get to the hips. Or if it's very close, and it's hard to knock through, it makes it easy to get the opposite leg. This isn't the only way you should finish this single leg. This is just something I've been messing around with and I think is very interesting and I've had a lot of success with. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could just do normal single leg and all that. I do find that this is, especially in Nogi when things tend to be very slippery, I feel like a fairly robust grip that you can keep for a bit, and it encourages connection, which sometimes if you keep things too dynamic, it's hard to get a good connection on your partner. I like this type of hand fighting from here. I think it's very useful. So one more time, these strips. Notice how I pull the hand away. If I try to get the wrist here, it's not going to work. I need to make sure that he's following. So if he just loses the grip, okay, fine, then we go back to our one. But he's probably going to keep it because he wants the strip. I get this wrist grip, he retracts, I'm going to try to knock him back. Obviously, if I can weight onto his heels, I can just go for this type of sweeping motion. But we should always anticipate that he steps out and then he gets the single leg. If he feels like, okay, just lets me pick it up, I will pick it up. The anytime sprawl, he slide forward, I go elbow deep, and I try to get this to my hip. Right, it should be very difficult to move from here. If you feel like he's slipping out, you can also use your hands to just keep his knee in place initially, but eventually, pretty quickly, we're going to want to move to dealing with our partner's hand. Right, and from here, especially if the space is wide, it's easier for us to actually drop him, make his shoulders cast on that. And if it's difficult, then we start accessing the far leg. In terms of finishing with the far leg, I'll recommend this. This is something quick and easy. Head in the far shoulder. From here, it's a sprawl, which should be very difficult. And once again, putting into your hip. And then you want to be conscious of which leg is his highest leg. If I just double down on this leg, he's going to build up. And we're not going to be able to keep him down. We're going to really try to maintain control of the highest leg. He tries to build up now. Bring it to that hip. Once again, half guard is a great option. You might turn hips, but it's all things you have to consider. Make sense? Any questions?
What do you call that position, the single leg? And then how do you keep that leg with your, how does that elbow grip
My
work?
elbow leg? I have no clue. I mean, it's just, I don't know what to call it necessarily. But it's like this kind of, I saw Ray Higuchi does this. So that, I don't know, I guess it's like an elbow deep on the hip. I wouldn't know necessarily. No, you could do it with knees.
Still a shelf.
A shelf? Yeah, I guess, right. And what was your second question?
And how do you keep this grip on it? How do you keep him from pulling out with your, are you doing anything with your arm?
Bend in his knee makes it hard to pull out, honestly. Like, really try pull. I feel like, yeah. I mean, if it's super slippery, I could definitely see how I could lose it at some point. But I've found that this is pretty robust, to be fair. Now, obviously, there's no shoe, but I think if this leg was straight, and I try to keep a hold of it like this, I think we'll get out. It's gonna be easier. But because I can kind of force this bend, like really try to pull out, I really feel really strong. I actually might put my hands on that, and then eventually we'll take fight. Make sense?
Higuchi squat or something.
Yeah, something like that, I guess. But yeah, I think like a leg shelf. Makes sense.
Higuchi show.
I guess. Make sense? Yeah.
Another question. In the initial Wojcicki sweep, I've seen you hit that shit for a minute now. You had this other version of it where you were calling it like a swivel heist, where you would switch to the other hip. and pull the other leg, does that chain into the same sequence or does it make
The swivel is more like when I'm supine, I feel like where I switch hips. It's usually like, let's say I'm on my left hip now, and then I go here and I come back, and I switch to my right hip. Similar to what we're doing a little bit today, where I went from one hip to the other. Especially when you're moving side to side, you can like switch hips and stuff. I wouldn't necessarily say like this Wardzinski one. He steps out. I don't necessarily have to switch my hips. That makes sense.
Right, but if he's like, depending on like if he switches his stance or is he circling, does that present the opportunity for you to switch in that transition?
Yeah, I mean for sure. If he's moving side to side, I definitely would consider switching my hips. I usually prefer staying on my left hip because this is where I feel most comfortable. My right hip, I actually prefer playing guard. Like I'll play like this where my left heel is close to my butt, my right heel is extended away, and I'll play like this on both sides. Generally, I mean I'll switch it up sometimes, but this makes it easy for me to actually establish a guard. This is where you see like kind of Gordon's classic seated guard, this type of stuff. But it's not great for a wrestling out. Right? So I'll play normal guard from here because I feel like it's easier for me to make a connection. But then when like my partner kind of goes to the opposite side, this is when I feel much more comfortable high stick. But that's just my personal preference. Makes sense? Okay. You good? 1, 2, 3.